Warm welcome to another exciting episode of the Bespoke Show. I'm Asha Sampath and I'm joined on the show with Sid Baliga. Today's discussion will revolve around a highly discussed topic in the news recently. It's a company that's in the spotlight for redefining innovation and what it means to be a brand. It's a brand that has made a conspicuous breakaway from traditional marketing and adopted non-conventional methods. It's setting new trends and new benchmarks for competitors to run after. Yes, I'm talking about Tesla, the American motor company that's also into energy management devices. I'm joined by experts to give expert insights on these topics today. Let me introduce the panelists. Dr. Falguni, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Falguni is a professor and chair strategic marketing at MICA, a doctorate in advertising management. She has several national, international publications and conferences to her credit. She's a TEDx speaker. She's also a visiting faculty in premier management institutes, both in India and abroad. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, Dr. Falguni.
Thank you, Sid.
Hello, Professor Christopher.
Hi, good evening.
Professor Christopher is a CEO and head Dubai campus and Senior Vice President Institutional Development at the SP Jain School of Global Management. He's a visiting professor at several leading universities internationally. He's a TEDx speaker and has several awards to his credit. Unfortunately, the time doesn't permit me to list out all the awards, so I should start on with the show right now. Thank you both for joining. If I may start with Dr. Falguni. Tesla is a brand that has gone through a lot of hiccups during its early journey through the business. There have been problems with cash flow, there has been problems with production, manufacturing defects, delayed deliveries. In spite of all that, today Tesla is a brand to reckon with, and it's giving more powerful brands such as the Mercedes and the BMWs a run for the money. So I'm wondering what is it that makes Tesla the brand it is today? What's the underlying power of the brand? Is it the ubiquitous positioning as a luxury car, or is it the AI-powered technology? Or is it the flamboyant CEO who has a very visionary zeal? What do you think?
Okay, so I would like to believe that it's little golden dust working from all across that you said, from everything that you said. Okay. But the core of Tesla, if we try to understand at the time when it was established in the early 2000s, Elon Musk very clearly tells people that this is not an automotive company, this is not a car company, this is a technology company. So first of all, the core of its existence is very much well defined, and it is positioned on technology and sustainability. That is what is creating the magical impact. And in today's age, where it is talking to luxury car buyers who are interested in AI, who are interested in technology, who are interested in these driverless cars and being ahead of time, I think it's talking to a very niche audience. And to the niche audience, the flamboyant CEO is working like magic, because that niche audience is online, is digital, is on social. And on social, if you look at how Elon Musk operates his entire kingdom on social media, he comes across as a very, very authentic person. And this reminds me this book that I was reading of, which is Ogilvy on Advertising in the Digital Age. It's a reworked version of the golden book Ogilvy on Advertising, which was in the traditional age. Now they're saying, if this is the digital age, we are moving from brands that used to give products to consumers and give functional utilities to consumers. We are slowly moving towards an age where brands that do will be appreciated. Authenticity of the brand is going to be the most appreciated feature of any offering. And I think this is where the underlying power of the flamboyance of the CEO in his ability to connect with his target audience on social media is proving definitely magical. So of course, technology, sustainability, good product, building an entire infrastructure of batteries, of sales infrastructure, owning the sales channel. So they've already challenged the marketing model, right? They are working on a very different marketing mix from product, price, place, and promotion. They are creating their own sales infrastructure as well. So that leaves no gaps in the entire value offering. And I believe on top of it, like icing on the cake, the transparency of the company is coming across when Elon Musk talks to his followers about some goof ups that they had, about some testing that they did, and how they failed. So today, consumers love brands which say that yes, we have failed and we have made a mistake, rather than brands that go over the rooftop and scream aloud saying we are the best. So I think little bit of all this is the magical dust that is working for the brand.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the transparency has led to a lot of people forgiving them for all the mistakes, and that speaks of how the CEO has built a cult community of followers. Thank you. Professor Christopher, would you like to share your views?
I think Dr. Falguni hit the nail on the head. Authenticity, extremely important, because I think people today can see through. You see, brands used to be built on hype. 15, 20 years back, when we didn't know the roots of a brand, you could build a lot of hype, what we call marketing gimmicks. And interestingly enough, what's happened, we live in the age of transparency and authenticity, where we can see through this. So one is the authenticity that Elon Musk comes out with. And Dr. Falguni rightly said about the failures, which I'd like to term as vulnerability. You know, and vulnerability and authenticity together create a very simple but extremely profound truth called being human. And we connect at a human level. So that's a very human brand. It's created by a very human person who has his misgivings, who has his failings, who's as normal like us, but a maverick with a genius streak. Now, we love that kind of a person with the vulnerabilities, the failures, and the humanness in it. And I think that's the connect that comes out. The other thing he touches upon is the sustainability part, which is about, giving back in terms of a car that runs not on fossil fuels, but runs on energy. And I think he has demystified the concept of renewable energy, in the sense that you can have something which can go on. There were a lot of naysayers who said that you really can't do this, but the reality is that today he has proven everybody wrong by sending commercial spacecraft to the sky, by sending, and in fact both are connected. If you look at the brand Tesla, we not only associate Tesla as a car, we associate it with a human being called Elon Musk. We associate it with SpaceX. So there is a very interesting synergy between these brands. So I think the core is being human, being authentic, being vulnerable, and also being relevant. In the 21st century, what we need is relevance. Today with all the oil prices going through all kinds of vulnerability and volatility, Tesla stands, head over shoulders over the rest because of its relevance to a market. I mean, the future of car ownership itself is going to be very different. We're going to talk about sharing, the sharing economy. We're talking about driverless cars. So this guy comes in between and creates a new niche. And he makes it, also a brand that you look forward to by creating that authentic demand for it. I mean, if you order a Tesla today, you can't get it today. You have to wait for it for 6 to 8 months, 10 months, which is also part of the, part of the excitement. How many cars would dare do that, where you don't have sleazy, pardon me for the expression, sleazy car salespersons. You don't have any, car showroom, jazzy showrooms, but you buy the car that you want, you custom design it, and you wait for months. And I think that's the excitement he has created. So I think it's a very, very different strategy, and there's plenty of lessons from the maverick Elon Musk.
Great, interesting. Sid?
Yeah. So, Dr. Falguni, just adding to your point, you had said that Elon Musk targets a very niche audience, a very high class audience, an educated class, which is digital, highly tech savvy. So, what happens when he tries to address the rest of the crowd in the market, the remaining buyer, over a period of time?
Yeah. So that's a very relevant question, I must say, because as businesses evolve, and you need to understand that business, marketing, advertising lives in a context. So what we are talking right now and what is working for Tesla is the context that currently we are talking about, being into luxury, being into technology, being into AI, being into ahead of time technology cars and luxury cars on the roads, right? The day Tesla will think of expanding it to the masses, to the segment other than the luxury car buyers, the context for the brand will change. And hence they will have to relook at their own business and marketing models, and they will have to question it. But what will not change, Sid, according to me, is the core of the brand premise will not change, and it should not change.
Right.
So is a Louis Vuitton because the core has somewhere remained intact. The core is like the character of the brand. So the character of the brand, which we just, both of us, I think we defined in the initial few minutes of the webinar, the core has to remain intact. Now, if Tesla chooses to become bigger in scale, go mass in scale, go deeper and penetrate the other markets, the positioning of the cars that they are currently into will not change. But since the context has changed, the challenges will be very different. So then, say for example, when you go mass, will being only on social media and YouTube and reviews and memes and going live on the Insta channels, will it work for the brand? Answer may be no. So they will have to go a little beyond that. So they will have to do little more of regularized marketing and promotion as we all know it. They will have to go more vocal in terms of its ads, in terms of its PR, in terms of its outreach, because the context will definitely change the whole challenges that the Tesla brand will have to face.
Right.
And just to add to what Dr. Falguni said, if you look at their marketing strategy, it started with a super luxury, ultra niche car, which was a sports car, the Roadster, which was not affordable for the common person. And then they moved on to a so-called affordable model, which still was, 150,000 above. But now they're looking at the end of the market. So we are not, now the car is not a mass marketed car, but it's leading to a larger market where people can afford it, a 75,000 to 100,000 bracket car, or even less than that. They're looking at 30 to 50,000, which is the final frontier for the expansion of the product portfolio. So to answer your question, I think they are moving from the super luxury niche market to a much larger market segment, which they call the affordable market segment. Right. Anybody who want to be, a Tesla owner today can consider it because it's the $30,000 to $35,000 range.
So will that customized model still continue to work in that case? Right now,
I presume so. With the digital platforms, I think we're moving from conventional manufacturing and marketing scenarios to platforms. So in a platform economy where ecosystems work, which replace conventional institutions, I presume it's very much possible to customize with AI and robotics at the back end. I'm sure they would be able to do that. So it's no longer rocket science. We are moving away from the assembly line mindset first, because the assembly line is first a mindset and a mentality. We need to move out of that and then move on to what we could probably look at mass customization. So I think that's where Tesla would move. Yeah.
So at going forward, somewhere we can sit at our home and order a car as per our requirements.
Why not? With 3D printing coming up of age, I presume so. Yes.
Fantastic.
Like in the last 10 years, as we have seen in India as well, how markets are shifting and how many things have we been able to customize and order online, which maybe our grandmother, grandfather would have never dreamt of. So while taking this webinar, for all you know, if there was no lockdown, I would have ordered my dinner from Swiggy.
Right.
So these are things which we are moving towards to, right?
Very true. Very true.
Yes, sir.
Professor Christopher, you are rightly mentioning about the fact that they're into SpaceX, they're into energy management solutions. So if you look at the other brands, I think Tesla is the only brand that is also into energy management solutions, right? So does this give them a competitive or a sustainable competitive edge? Because nobody else is having the same kind of leveraging that Tesla is doing by baking those devices or those technology into the product design itself, right in the initial stage. Does it make them more competitive on a sustainable basis, or do you think the other brands can catch up sometime soon?
This is a very interesting question. In fact, it has a historical context to it. I might sound a little controversial here, even, bordered on what we call conspiracy theories, but you can go do your own homework. There's a brilliant documentary which says, who killed Tesla? Okay. Now, this is not the Tesla, the car, but it's Nicholas Tesla. And Nicholas Tesla was a scientist and inventor far ahead of his time. Now, you might be wondering, what has Nicholas Tesla got to do with Asha's question? Nicholas Tesla was the guy who first thought about alternative energy sources. And for some crazy reasons, I don't want to get into the controversy now. Go do your homework, find out how Nicholas Tesla died, go and do that. But 100 years before, this guy gave some very interesting options vis-a-vis oil and fossil fuels. And for some reasons, the idea was snuffed out, and it took 100 long years before we could revive it, in the form of an Elon Musk taking over a Tesla car company. He didn't find it. As you know, he wasn't one of the founders. He joined them in the board of directors after a year or so, and then went on to become the chairperson of Tesla. And then history was invented, because Tesla was about the non-fuel car. The moment you say non-fuel, you're talking about batteries, you're talking about alternate energy. People poo-pooed the idea when it was started. People said batteries can't last, you can't store battery, you can't have it for a longer sustainable run, so on and so forth. Now, here is where I think the innovative mindset of Elon Musk comes across. He said, hey, this is a great opportunity where we can not only create batteries for the battery-powered cars, let's look at battery and alternate energy as an industry by itself. I'm very happy to tell you, we work with a top local energy company called SEWA. SEWA is the second largest utility company in UAE. It's the Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority. And we do a lot of design thinking and innovation workshops for them. I'm a lead consultant and trainer for them. So I can tell you, today we are talking about a technology which is already, now the beta versions are already being tested, where you could have an electric car. The battery power grid is going to be embedded on the road, on the asphalt. So you're not even talking about going and stopping at a battery powering station and then waiting for a fuel. As you pass through, they are now testing technology that can actually, the car can sap in the battery energy and you move on within a few minutes, just the time you would take to fill up gas in your car. So this is the kind of visionary thought process that Elon Musk had. And I would credit him fully for that, to see beyond, battery as a battery for the car, but battery as an alternate energy source. And as we speak today, 30 to 40% of the world's energy sources are now moving away from fossil. And by the way, the volatility of the oil markets are going, we might say goodbye to oil in the next couple of decades and move on to a completely non-fossil fuel-based, alternate, like solar, like energy, like batteries, so on and so forth. So I would credit Elon for having that visionary mindset. And as a result, he's now become the trendsetter. He's become the pioneer. You would have a lot of also-rans getting into the race, but this guy is already having the prime mover advantage, which will give him the economies of scale and the size and the way he would be way ahead of the curve. Because today he's talking to utility companies. I mean, I have a local example here. He's already partnering with the Sharjah Electricity Water Authority. They're talking about not just the power grid for cars, they're talking about energy grid for utilities, for houses, industries, so on and so forth. So it's going to be very, very exciting times for alternate energy.
If I can add, that was so interesting, Professor Christopher, your view, and I completely agree with it, what you said. I also feel where Ellen went right was that when you have to launch a breakthrough innovation, which your consumer will be challenged to even understand because it's so ahead of its time. So you're talking big things like luxury, AI, sustainability, alternate energy sources. Now there is where his marketer's mind worked and understood what can be the barriers as far as consumer adoption of my innovation is concerned. And he worked on the barriers as well, not only on the innovation. So the battery swap changing stations, the battery chargers that he invested in, building an entire sales channel, because he understood that if I outsource my sales job to somebody else, they will never have the same passion in selling where I come from. And I think that was quite a remarkable thing to understand as a marketer as well, right? As somebody who is interested in marketing and as a case study of Tesla, that he understood what can be the barriers and he worked on the barriers and he made the consumer adoption process very, very smooth as a front runner. Someone who was thinking ahead of the time.
I would agree on that. Certainly agree on that.
Yeah, actually, you were mentioning about the fact that he feels nobody can sell as well as he does, but I've been reading a few of the case studies, and there's one perspective to it, which is he's not getting salesmen or dealerships to sell the cars for two other reasons. One, because it will conflict with his own segment of the gasoline cars, one, and two, probably the fact that what you mentioned, that they may not be able to sell it as well as he does it himself. So do you think there's a truth in that aspect, or does it really conflict with his segment of the gasoline cars, and it could undermine that segment of his portfolio, and so he is not selling it aggressively?
No, that could be one. The other reason is today's brands need to become aspirational. I need to look forward to own the brand, So I think he has created that niche in the mind of the consumer, positioning, classic positioning, where I look forward to the brand. I aspire to become, for example, we might all have great cars, but you still give that sigh of oomph when you see a Tesla pass by.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Seriously, I've seen that many times. Oh, I wish I had that. You have a decent car, not that you have a bad car, it's a great car. But the moment you see a Tesla, you have that, I wish I had that. I think that creates that aspirational mindset he has created is something remarkable. And I think he would deliberately keep it that way by cutting down on the manufacturing, by creating that demand on a consistent basis, and ensuring that we tend to wait. This used to be a strategy many years back for Lamborghini. When we did marketing, they would use Lamborghini as an example, where you have to wait for 6 months to a year before you could buy a Lamborghini. But today he has made that for the mass market. It's not a niche market, it's not a mass market. He has created that kind of a waiting time. And I think that's the credit you need to give Elon for doing that. Yes, it would certainly, eat into his. I'm not too sure how serious he is on the gasoline market, segment. I have my doubts on that.
Oh, is it right? Okay.
Coming to the marketing spend part, it is generally said in the PR coverage and media coverage that he does not spend anything on marketing. It's a zero marketing spend kind of a brand. So, but how is it possible that you have a zero marketing budget and that there should be some cost maybe marked somewhere else, not under marketing budget? How does that work?
I mean, you would have heard this famous example of that SpaceX thing that he did, right? When he sent SpaceX, he ensured that the Roadster was part of it. So he did spend. It's not that he doesn't spend it the way you and I understand marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
He doesn't spend it on conventional avenues. He uses very unique mechanisms, and he himself is a brand ambassador. His SpaceX is another brand ambassador. His technologies are another brand ambassador. I think he is spending, but the way he spends it is very novel, very intelligent. That's how I would put it. You know?
Yeah, I think he is definitely spending, 100% he's spending, but as Professor rightly mentioned, in a way which is not maybe visible to us in the conventional forms. So when I say visible, because if you do a TV ad, a print ad, an outdoor, a huge event activation, it's visible to every other person. But when you do it as a part of your strategy, where you endorse some technology products, or you are a part of some other initiative, or you are doing a lot on personal branding space, that is not the usual way in which we have seen brands spending on marketing. Also, do not forget the element of community-driven marketing that he is into. So the community creation on social media and creating a tribe of fans and followers, and as Professor was also mentioning, people who are so enthusiastic about Tesla, the brand, and so anxious and aspiring to own the brand. I think that also is a part of his marketing spends and marketing promotion, but it's a very different way in which he's doing it, and hence we are thinking that he's not spending enough on marketing.
Okay. So in a typical accounting parlance, it is not a marketing spend, or maybe he's not on traditional media, maybe he's not splashing on billboards and newspapers.
Yeah.
Right.
I think done away with the word typical in every sense.
Yeah. See, customer engagement, customer centricity, probably that's where he is looking at. He gets his fans to talk about it. You see the lovely YouTube videos on Tesla. They are not created by Tesla, the car company. They are created by Tesla owners or wannabe Tesla owners. So that's the kind of affiliation the brand has with its, or the connect it has, the emotional connect it has with its community. And that's the popularity of the brand. You know, in car marketing, there's this common saying, worldwide there's research on it, that a person who buys an X brand very rarely repeats that brand when he goes to upgrade his car. So if I have bought a Toyota, there's a very strong chance I will not buy a Toyota again. I might buy a Nissan or a Mercedes or whatever. And the reasons are because of the apathetic service and the customer disconnect that car companies have with customers. Now, this guy seems to have created a kind of fan following, not even a customer following, a fan following, that people kind of adore the man and his machine. That, I think, is the credit that Tesla has towards its customers, towards the community. You may not even call them customers, it's a community.
So probably it's the social media follower base that's creating the leads for him. Besides also the fact that when flamboyant cars like the Tesla goes on the highways, I think there's an organic lead generation that's happening.
Yeah.
It does.
Right.
It does.
Yeah, just moving on to another point. Of course, Tesla is relying a lot on its technological competitive edge right now. But in terms of the size, Tesla is much smaller compared to some of the other major brands, right? So at some point, I'm sure the other brands would catch up also on technology and be able to outpace the number that Tesla is selling right now. Of course, for now, I think Tesla does sell the maximum number of EVs in the US. That's what I read. But I don't think this is going to sustain for long. When the other brands do catch up, it will be much easier for them to scale and expand compared to Tesla. So what should be, in your opinion, a strategy for Tesla to sustain this kind of a positioning going forward?
So if I can take this.
Please.
Yeah. So see, Tesla will always have the first mover advantage. That goes without saying. Mm-hmm. And what will reap in profits for them is the strong fan following that they have been able to create. Right. And the tribe that they have been able to create. I am also moving a little ahead from the community space now. Right. It's not even community, it's a tribe of people who associate with the brand, who are a part of the brand, and the belief system is being shared by those people that Tesla has created. So that is always going to work in favor of Tesla. But answering your question, that as more and more competitive brands jump into the bandwagon that Tesla has been able to create, and currently it sells 3 out of every 5 EVs sold in the US market, but soon it may get challenged. You're right. So that time, I believe what will work is the core belief system that Tesla has been created on. That will be very powerful to hang on. But what will work more, and I think we were discussing this when we were discussing the marketing spends as well, the experience management that they've been able to establish, the end-to-end experience that they are giving to the consumer. So remember, Asha, it's not only about the car that they are manufacturing, it's also about the after-sale services. It's also about the grievances and the barriers in the mind of the consumers. Pre-sales, it's about giving the right transparency, authenticity, the showcasing of the vulnerability, as Professor Christopher was mentioning. So if you look at the entire chain of pre-sales, sales, and post-sales, I think you are creating an end-to-end engagement cycle which is driven only and only by superior experience. So a competitor jumping in may be able to give a matched product maybe, but will they be able to give a matched experience on that scale? I'm not so sure of that. So I think they are winning over in the experience game.
Right, and I think they're also delivering software updates via internet all across the world. Based
and
on
hence
the
vulnerability, hence the transparency that I was talking about.
Right.
They're not stopping by selling a car.
Right. It's a relationship that they're building.
Yeah. See, in addition to what Dr. Falguni said, the tribe is a very critical dimension, because the moment you become tribe, you're driven by a common set of values and beliefs and thought processes. The other thing would be, because of their prime mover advantage in the battery power systems, my belief is they would make it even more energy efficient. They would make it even more innovative. They would make it even more accessible because of that advantage. And that could be the, I would say, differentiator, because when you have a mass market that has too many players, then the differentiation would be these key factors. And one of it would be this. The other one would be that driven by AI and robotics and big data. Again, these guys have the prime mover advantage. They have the first mover advantage, and together with his maverick, style of functioning, I presume it's very difficult to replicate. I can relate this with an airline example. Now, in the airline industry, many of us from marketing know Southwest Airlines. We use that as the benchmark. Now, Southwest Airlines is not, I would call it one of the most adored, lovable airlines. Now, if you go back to the roots, what they've created is a unique culture, a mindset among people. And so the original founder, who passed away last year, Herb Kelleher, used to say, you can replicate our processes, you can replicate our operations, you can replicate our strategies, but what you can't replicate is our people and our culture.
Very true.
And I think that's where Elon Musk and his Tesla will stand the test of time. You may have other players coming into, but you can't replicate an Elon Musk and the unique Tesla culture, which is, we love it because of its vulnerability. It's not perfect. It's not the perfect car. He's not the perfect skin. He's so human. He's so vulnerable. He's so psychotic, if I may use the word. But that's why we love him, because he's like us.
I think that makes him very human also. So.
Human, exactly. So I think that differentiation will continue.
Yeah, I think that's really unique and unparalleled.
In fact, in that personal branding space, what Professor was mentioning, I think if the viewers right now, if they want to see the growth of Ratan Tata on Instagram, he just recently joined Instagram and internet broke. He broke the internet on that day. It didn't take a Kareena Kapoor. It didn't take an Amitabh Bachchan in a Bollywood frenzy country to break the internet. It took Ratan Tata to break the internet, and he has millions of followers now on Instagram, but the things that he posts shows his human side, and that's where personal branding comes into picture, the vulnerability, the highs and the lows. And as Rory Sutherland in his famous TED talk, perspective is everything, says that we need to mind the humanity's hidden shallows more than humanity's hidden depths. If brands can understand that, I think that's a true winner.
Absolutely.
There's a question from the audience from one Mr. Gautam. It says, can Tesla marketing model be replicated by EV manufacturers in India? And can Tesla be similarly successful in the commercial vehicle segment? So I'll repeat, can Tesla marketing model be replicated by EV manufacturers in India? That is question 1. And question 2, can Tesla be similarly successful in the commercial vehicle segment? This is from Gautam.
So the second part of the question, if I can take the commercial vehicle bit. So right now it is into the consumer car market, and it is also in some other forms in the energy segment, in the B2B segment as well. But the moment we look at Tesla as a commercial vehicle manufacturer, the whole positioning and the whole context of the company will completely change. So it's not possible to give what should I say, a very clear-cut answer to this, that whether it will succeed or whether it will fail. It actually depends, because the AI that they are talking about, the technology that they are talking about, the commercial car market or the vehicle market is still not ready for it. And the volumes, the challenges, the energy levels required, right, the battery issues will be very different in nature. So it's a very different business diversification that we are discussing here.
I hope that answers your question.
So let me look at the first one. Yes. So Cybertruck, he rightly mentioned. Yes, Cybertruck, though ugly looking, is probably the future of commercial vehicles. I mean, first, that's a personal opinion, so don't hold me against it. But Tesla's marketing model, can it be replicated in the Indian context? To some extent, yes. I mean, if you look at the likes of, say, Anand Mahindra, like Dr. Falguni said, he's another very warm person, very human, very down to earth, very clued on to a lot of sensitive, human subjects. So if there's one person who can probably replicate Tesla's magic in India, I would vote for Anand Mahindra. He already has a car company, a successful car company. Of course, currently going through challenges like every other car company, but I presume he would be one good fit to do it. But having said that, there's nothing to prevent a new. I mean, I'm a guy who believes in the youngsters of India. What is to prevent a new Elon Musk emerging from India?
Exactly.
Now, so it need not necessarily be the conventional car manufacturers, because if Google can invest in car manufacturing, if Apple can look at the future of automobile industry, that prevents any Indian entrepreneur who can look at the future of cars. Though initially we had a couple of startups that tried it and failed, but I think moving forward with the kind of venture capital interest in Indian entrepreneurs, I presume there is a sweet spot waiting to be tapped. Just a question of coming of minds that needs to look at, and then probably the next Elon Musk emerges from Bangalore or Mumbai or anywhere in India. That's my dream.
And I think, sir, for an Elon Musk to emerge from a Hyderabad or a Bangalore or Ahmedabad, from where I am sitting, so I believe that they will also have to focus more on the infrastructure where these cars will be utilized and driven on, and the challenges that the consumer will face when they're driving on the road. I think that will be more important. Like if you can recall the challenges that, let us say, any map software company faced in India. So the Google Maps, the GPS location positioning, so the infrastructure issues will be there, but they will have to address it first, and then definitely I think they will have to move backward.
True.
Any more questions, Sid?
No.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that stands out when it comes to Tesla, right? I think he's following what I would call a reverse innovation. He visualizes a futuristic need, and then he innovates and then shapes the customer's minds to align with his own futuristic thinking. So is that something that's very hard to replicate for anyone?
Not at all. I think, see, but design thinking teaches you that. For example, the concept of design thinking is about human-centered problem solving. So you start with the human being. You don't do something and then test whether, conventional marketing will tell you, conventional market research will tell you, go for the mass market, look at where the opportunity lies. Design thinking tells you, okay, do the mass market, but look at the bell curve and look at the outliers. That's the word they use. Look at the extremes, the extreme non-user and the extreme user. Find out what makes the guy non-use the product. Find out what makes this guy be an extreme user. And from there, I think that's where the real, opportunity lies. And if you start looking at, if you look at the story of Airbnb or the story of Uber or even Tesla for that matter, these are those sweet spots waiting to be tapped. So, they can even move. I'm thinking loud. They might even move to a subscription model, pay as you go model, own, So there are a lot of things by which the evolution of the brand will take place. So I believe that's the future. That's where it's going to be.
In fact, it will be a very wrong time to quote this as a brand example, but look at how TikTok is growing. and the bell curve that Professor just talked about, the smartphone penetration, and I'm talking not about ByteDance, the Chinese company, but I'm talking about the Indian operations of TikTok, and elsewhere as well, wherever you see as TikTok. So they looked at the smartphone penetration, they looked at the internet bandwidth, Internet of Things getting used by people, and they looked at those outliers. People who were still not on mediums like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what was lacking, and the design thinking element that Sir was talking about. I think TikTok is a brilliant example, even if you look at the audience type who is present on TikTok and how marketers are using TikTok as a platform to work with, collaborate with the brand influencers on TikTok. In fact, first you will be shocked by the user profile on TikTok. Then you will start thinking what is happening, and then you will develop a sense of that, oh, these are the people who we never see on Instagram. These are the people who are never there on Facebook. They are never there on Twitter. And suddenly you realize, oh, it has 45 languages. So TikTok talks to 45 local languages of the country, and hence it is ticking the charts. So yeah, it's very much possible.
But recently I read about some problems that TikTok is running into. I'm not sure if that's
That's
true.
why I said it's a wrong time to take this as an example.
Security issues, right? Yeah.
Security and I think data leak issues. But Asha, tell me, in a world where we are leaving digital footprints every second, the moment you choose to be on a social media platform, do you think your data is 100% protected? Last year, we saw Mark Zuckerberg facing the judges in the court for Facebook. So suddenly, the people are so vocal about TikTok, but it's across. You have signed up for it. Yeah. The moment you download an app on your app store, you are signing for it.
I think the moment
you on the record, on your Zoom platform that you're using is equally vulnerable to security breaches.
Exactly. True. We are leaving digital footprints everywhere. Everywhere.
So end-to-end encryption, as they call it, is still a myth. Yeah.
It's the myth. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we were talking of personal branding, right? How important personal has played a role in Tesla. So trying to align that with Indian brands such as the Tatas, the Godrej, the Ambanis, I think they've all had their own brand names as the company brand name. Most of them, except Reliance. The Tatas and the Godrej have their family names as the brand names. So that's one category. And the other category are the companies like the Ambanis or the Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. They've managed to build their personal brand independent of the company brand. So they've both been successful in their own ways. So I would like both of you to share some words of advice to Indian brands on how they could leverage personal branding to connect with the customer, as well as, let's say, an Elon Musk or Ratan Tata.
Yeah, five letters, one word, trust.
Human. Huh?
Trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Trust. I said five
Trust.
letters,
Okay.
trust. So if you can build the trust in your stakeholder, and when I say stakeholder, today I think we need to move from the shareholder concept. We need to move from just the consumer concept, the customer concept. It's the stakeholder, which includes the investors, the society at large, consumers, so the SPICE, as we call it, society, partners, investors, customers, and employees. So if we can take care, if we can provide value to each of those elements of the stakeholders, I presume your brand becomes very strong. And at the end of the day, it's again about authenticity. Dr. Falguni started with that. Being authentic, being true to yourself, being transparent, being honest. We call this the naked digital economy. There's no secrets. So it's much better to be open and transparent and authentic and build all the vulnerable. And here is some very interesting recent research on leadership, which says people love leaders who are vulnerable, who say, hey, listen, I made a mistake. I'm sorry about it. Let's move on. People love such people. So I think that's the essence of personal branding. Be yourself. Of course, build a competency in a particular area. Be known for that. But be authentic. Don't try to imitate. Don't be somebody else. Be yourself. And you can build your competence in anything. So, as a professor, one of the common things that parents and well-wishers would like to ask is, what should my child be doing? Tell us which is the most lucrative. The moment you ask that question, you feel pissed off. You say, that's a very wrong question. It's not what is lucrative. It's what the child wants to do. You can be the world's best sculptor if you want. You want to be the world's best cartoon artist. You can be the world's best singer or among the world's best. So I think that authenticity, that individual thought leadership, what I'm good at. And if I can project that authentically, consistently, my brand gets built over time. Then people start relying, okay, this whatever he or she says, like Dr. Falguni was talking about how the internet broke with Ratan Tata getting on Instagram. Why? Because he already has an element of credibility built into it. So we long to hear what this great man has to say. Many of us would have heard him on YouTube. We'd have watched his convocation addresses. We watched how the group itself reacted during the Taj terror attack. So these are insights into the persona of the person. And I think that's the way you build the personal brand.
What I feel about Indian CEOs and personal branding is, I think they've still not realized the power of personal branding. They are underutilizing social channels, and they are not realizing the fact that social channels and social media has made the distance a myth between the company and the consumer. So the consumer is enjoying the proximity and wants to enjoy the proximity of this space, and hence there are only a few examples that we can remember, like Ratan Tata or a Mahindra, right? Or let us say a Sudha Murthy. But I'm not too sure whether many leaders in the Indian business space have woken up to this new age reality where they will have to go upfront on social media and invest in their own personal branding, which of course creates synergies with the brands that they belong to, with the corporates that they belong to. And in that process, I believe that the tips that we can think of is genuineness will always rock, authenticity will always rock, but you also have to understand that in the process of building your personal brand on social media, you have to be alive, alert and responsive and relatable. So in all these, between all these keywords that I just mentioned, I believe power is yet to be unleashed as far as the Indian scenario is concerned. And hence we have only 4 or 5 role models in this space.
Great.
Very true.
Sid, do you have any more questions?
Sure, sure.
Great, great lessons for the Indian brands, I would think, from this discussion from Dr. Falguni and Professor Christopher. Just to sum up, I think the keywords that brands need to remember today are personal branding, in a sense that they become vulnerable and accountable to people, authenticity of the brands, transparency of their failures and misgivings so that people can relate and build a level of trust with the brand. The human connect, which is something that nobody can contradict, I would think, today, because I think the emotional touch is a magic word for brands to succeed. Thank you so much